My very first lure was a flatfish. In fact, I didn't even know what it was called. I just had a recollection of some sort of weird banana-shaped lure, and I wanted to carve one out of wood and fish it, and it worked very well. Since then, I've recreated that retro lure in FreeCAD, and we will build this file, this model together today. Even the modern one catches fish. Check it out. Let's go ahead and start in a new file. We will create a var set, and we're only putting one thing in it this time, our pilot hole diameter. And that's where our screws will attach. And we'll get straight on to creating our side profile sketch. We will do that on the YZ plane. And I'm going to first draw a construction box. But I'm going to delete the line that goes over the horizontal axis because I don't need it and it's just noise. Then I'm going to dimension this box. I'll use the D key. The top of this box I want to be 65 millimeters wide. And for the height, I want it to be 35. Now I'll grab those 2 points there on the end and the axis, and I'll use a symmetry constraint to center it. Why am I not fully constrained? Aha! That point needs to connect to that axis. I will use the C key on my keyboard to do that. Zoom in here a little bit, and the first thing we're going to add is a straight line for the back of the bait. And I'm going to just drop on this line without attaching it to any of the axes. I'll dimension that line to be 8 millimeters, and then I want this line 7 millimeters off of that horizontal axis, and that'll fully constrain that line. Let's drop a couple more lines. We're going to take a horizontal line here, and we're going to have another line that comes up towards this line, but I don't want to touch it. So this bottom line, I'll use the D again, and I will dimension that line to be 13.5 millimeters. This line I will dimension from this back of this construction box at 17 millimeters. Now let's go ahead and start drawing some arcs to give our body shape. We'll come up here and we'll choose the create arc by 3 points. And we'll get the crosshairs and drop a point there, a point down here somewhere, and curve it. And same with this one. We'll get the crosshairs, drop a point down here and curve it. Now I'm going to take this bottom arc and this bottom line and make them tangent. Same with the top arc and the top line. And I'm going to start using keyboard shortcuts because I have a lot of tangency. Let's take this top arc and the top of our construction box and make that tangent with the T key. Then I need to set some radiuses on these arcs. So if I select the top arc and come up here to the dimension constraints, radius is here, and I want this top arc to have a 35 millimeter radius. And the bottom arc, I'm going to do the same thing, except it's going to have a different radius. It will actually be 60. Okay. Now let's go ahead and draw some straight lines coming off of those arcs. And let's make them tangent to their arcs with the T key. Looks like I didn't get both lines. Let me try again. Get both lines. Hit the T key. There we go. And we're going to draw a final arc that connects this. This will be the nose or the front of the bait, and just kind of drag that out. Now I'll grab that arc and make it tangent to both sides of these lines. And then I'll make that point or that arc tangent to the bottom of our construction line here. And grab it again and grab this horizontal axis and make it tangent. Oops, we have a little problem. Sometimes tangency gets weird. if it's on the wrong side. So let me delete this tangent constraint here. And let's delete this tangent constraint here. Let's try to drag this back where I want it. Now, I think I still have there we go. Let's kind of bring this arc so it's close to the right place. And then we'll try tangency again. There and there. And then we need to set a radius for this arc too. So back up here, and I'm going to set this to a real small value here. I think I will just use 1 millimeters. Okay, because of our tangency, and because I have a dimension on all of these arcs, we're fully constrained, and we're done with our side profile. So let's give it a name. Let's move straight to our top profile sketch. So we'll create a new sketch here in the part workbench. And this time, I don't want to select it. I don't want to attach it to this sketch. So I'll hit cancel and I'll click in the model, click the sketch. And this time we'll use the XY or the top plane. And the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to come up here and grab reference geometry and grab a point from the back end of that sketch so that we have our right dimensions. Now I'm going to use a B-spline to describe the shape of this. But in order for you to follow along and get the same shape as I did and get sort of a proven bait, I'm going to fully constrain this B-spline, which I don't always do. So the first thing I'm going to do is change to construction geometry. We use the line here. I'm going to put a line here and a line here, both of them being horizontal. Then I'm going to take this top line and get both of its points and select that reference point last and use symmetry. This midline will select both of the points and the vertical axis and do symmetry. And then I'll dimension these lines. D key on my keyboard. I'll make this one 9.5 millimeters. And I will make this line 24 millimeters wide. And I'm also going to set a dimension, a height, and that is going to be 44 millimeters. Okay, I'm going to hide my constraints, and then we'll go ahead and start dropping our B-splines. So get out of construction geometry, grab a B-spline. We want to get the crosshair so that we get the origin, and then we want to land on this line, point on line. We want to drop a point there and a point there. And then just right click with the mouse. And we're going to do the same thing. Oops, I scrolled with my middle mouse wheel. It took me to another document. We're going to do the same thing here. Origin, line, scroll, zoom in, grab that point, and grab that point. Okay. Now, the only reason this isn't perfectly symmetric is we have to deal with these bottom 2 points. So let's select both points, that one, and the origin. This time I'll use S on my keyboard to make them symmetric. Looks like I didn't quite get the points. Let's try again. That point, and the origin. There we go. And then I'm going to grab those 2 points with the dimension tool. And I will set this distance to be 29 millimeters. And we're fully constrained. So that's our top profile. We're going to be using the curved array from the curved shapes workbench again. And so we need one more profile, which is going to be the front profile. Let's create a new sketch for the front profile on the XZ plane. Here we're going to come up here to the rectangle and we're going to choose rounded rectangle. And when I drop a rounded rectangle, it asks me for a number and I'm going to type 4 and hit enter. And that's the size of my radius. So then I'm going to take these little helper points on the outside of these arcs, that one down there and this one down here, and select the origin and make it symmetrical. Then I'm going to distance just the straight part of these lines to be 20 millimeters. I've got some sort of an error here. I'm not sure why. Sometimes when you use the distance tool, it drops a constraint before you even get a chance to type. So if I just double click on that constraint, I can now type 20. And I can just grab that line and make them equal. And we have a fully constrained rounded rectangle. So let's rename that to front profile. And if you haven't watched any of my other videos and don't know about this, there is a workbench we're going to use called Curved Shapes. If you don't have it, you just go to the Tools, Add-on Manager, and search for it and install it. So now that we're in the Curved Shapes workbench, we're just going to first select the front profile because that's going to be the shape that is lofted along these other profiles. And then we'll select the other two. And we'll just hit this icon here to create a curved array. When you first create a curved array, it doesn't really look like anything happened. It's kind of a weird side effect. I don't know why it is. I'm going to hide all my profiles, bring back the curved array, and we need to change the number of items anyway, and I'm going to use 30. And then I'm going to come down here in this data tab for the curved array and switch it over to a solid. And we're basically got our shape, but there's something a little weird here about the way it comes together at the point. And sometimes that happens with a curved array. There's an easy fix for this. So in the tree view here, select your curved array and come down to this data tab. And what we wanted set is an offset for the start. So just to show you how this works, I'm going to offset this by 10 millimeters. And you can see it's flattened the front of our object. And if I was to turn it from solid to false, you would see that as well. So I don't want to go back that far, but all I need to do here is go to this offset and type 0.1. I just need a very small value. And that should make our bait look good. And it does. It looks like it's kind of curved up here, but believe me when I tell you this prints just beautifully. Okay, let's go ahead and create our rigging sketch so we can put some pilot holes in this lure so we can attach some hooks and tie it on our line. Let's go back to the part workbench. Here, we're going to go ahead and hide the curved array. We're going to bring back the side profile, and we're going to create a new sketch on that side plane YZ. And we're going to need to bring in some reference geometry. So let's get that line and that arc and that line. Okay, let's go ahead and drop our front line, and it's going to be a little more complicated than some of the other ones we've done before. So I'm going to put a point on the front of the bait and connect it to that horizontal axis. Then I'm going to set a distance on this. Not a horizontal or vertical, but the line distance of 10 millimeters. Now it can slide around, and that's good because what I want to do is I want to find the best angle for this so that there will still be some walls, some plastic material around this to hold on to our screw. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to construction geometry, and I'm going to drop two lines. I'm going to drop a line coming off of the back of there and another line like that. So this first line, I'm going to select it and this line, and I'm going to make them parallel to each other so that it continues in a straight line. And then I'm going to take this back line, I'm going to take both of the points and this point and make them symmetric. Now it's symmetric, but it can do this. So let's select that line and that line. And now we're going to use a perpendicular constraint. And we're going to set some dimensions. So with the D key on our keyboard, we're going to set this to be 1 millimeter because we need a little bit of a wall behind the screw tip. And then we're going to set this line to be varset dot pilot hole diameter. And then I'm going to add 3 millimeters to give us a little bit of wall space around that. Now that I've done that, if I zoom out a little bit and take that bottom point and put it on the bottom of the bait with the C key, the constrain coincidence, now we come fully constrained, and I know that I have enough room for a wall behind the point of the screw tip, and I have enough meat on both sides of the screw to give it something to hold on to. The other two are going to be pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and drop a line coming up straight and a line back here. And if you notice, if I zoom in and go for about the middle of this line, it automatically goes symmetric to the line, which is exactly what I want. So both of these lines, we're going to select the line we have fully constrained and these two lines and make them equal so they're all the same length. And then I am going to set this line here. I'm going to set a distance using the D key from the back of the bait at 40 millimeters. Our sketch is fully constrained and we're all done with our rigging sketch. Let's go ahead and give it a name. And then with the rigging sketch selected in the tree view, let's go down here to the properties, go to the view tab, and set the point size to 10. Now we can hide the side profile. Let's drop a cylinder from the primitives up here. And for this cylinder, if we go to its data tab, I would like that radius to match the pilot hole diameter and divide it by 2 since it's a radius. And then for its length, I'm going to set it to 12. Now I'm going to select that cylinder and hit Control-C on my keyboard and deselect the varset. And then I'm going to paste it twice. And you know what? This time I'm not even going to bother giving them names. Let's get straight to mapping these to those lines. Let's hide them because that makes the mapping a little bit easier. And then we'll select the first one, go down to the Data tab, to the Map mode. Click here for the 3 dots. We're going to choose that point and that line, and we're going to say OZX. And we'll take this second cylinder, go to its map mode, choose the inside point and the line, and choose a line OZX. Same thing with the last cylinder. Inside of the bait towards the outside, OZX. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring these visible again. And once again, they're all going the wrong direction. I've talked about that in previous videos. Just choose each cylinder, come down here to the attachment, and change the map reverse to true. And they're all going the right direction. Let's go ahead and fuse all of those together by selecting all of them. Make a fusion. Let's rename this to all pilot holes. And now we can take our curved array, select it first, select all pilot holes, and perform a cut. We can hide our rigging sketch, and now you can see our pilot holes. Now there's only one thing left to do, and that's to put an eye on this if you'd like to stick on a plastic eye in your bait. Let's go ahead and come up here on the toolbar and grab this Create Primitives icon. We will drop a circle. And I'm going to set its radius at 2.75 millimeters. And that will give me a 5 millimeter stick-on eye plus a 0.5 millimeter of tolerance around it so that it easily can stick in that hole. Hit the close button. Now we just need to go ahead and transform this eye. So let's right click on the circle, hit transform. My rotation increment here is set to 30 degrees. So let's go ahead. Looks like I need to go around this red axis. Let's go ahead and bring it up 90 degrees. And then let's flip it around that green axis 90 degrees, 30, 60, 90. And now we can move that over here and use the blue arrow to pull it out. And we can start positioning it. I am going to set it right about there, center my view, and see what I think. Let's push that right about there. And it looks to be pretty good and centered in that direction. So using this translation increment of 0.1 millimeters, I'm going to just nudge it in till it's touching the bait. And it looks like I want to rotate it a little bit too, because that front is digging into the bait before the back. So I'm going to change my rotation increment to 1 degree, and I'm going to rotate around this green axis. Just a touch more. There, that's pretty close. I'm going to say OK. And let's extrude that circle. We will choose 1 millimeter symmetric so that we have a 0.5 millimeter hole. And we cut through the outside of the bait cleanly. Let's take that extrude. Let's mirror it along the YZ plane, because that's our side plane. Say OK. Then I'm going to fuse those two extrudes together, or the mirror with its extrude. I'm going to fuse that together, and I'm going to rename this to both eyes. And then I could take my bait and then my both eyes and cut it now. And that's fine. The only problem with that is when you start cutting a lot of objects out, you got cuts within cuts within cuts. So I'm going to take that cut now and hit the delete key to undo it. I don't lose anything, I just lose the operation. And I'm going to expand this original cut, and I'm going to take the pilot holes and the both eyes. I'm going to fuse them together. I'm going to call this all cuts. I'm going to come up here to the cut, go down to the properties in the data tab, and where it says tool fusion all pilot holes, I will choose the 3 dots and I'll change that to all cuts and say OK. And once it refreshes, we are done with our bait. Hey, put some screws in it, put some hooks in it, tie it on your line, get out there and catch a really cool fish like this one here. Thanks for watching.